Hello, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of Jimmy's Jambox. We're here. We're back at it again, and we're going to get on into it. But before we do, as always, please make sure to like, subscribe, push all the buttons, do all the things. You know, I don't know where they are, but you do, and I trust you. And with that being said, here's a quick word from our sponsors. Organic herbs and botanicals, skincare and edibles, wellness for body and mind. The Brothers Apothecary. Fine teas and remedies. Ronald Records. From indie gems to classic hits, discover the heart of local music. With live shows all the time, up close and personal, and regular releases on their in-house label. Ronald Records. Supporting the community, one track at a time. All right, thank y'all so much for watching. Again, shout out The Brothers Apothecary, Ronald Records, and Portland Water. Thanks for keeping us hydrated. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get on into it. Here is today's guests.
Hello, I'm John.
Hi, I'm Kelly, and we are Tiny Jackets.
Hello.
Hey.
Thank you guys so much for joining us. Why don't you tell us a little bit about who you each are, what you do in the band?
I play bass and sing lead, or joint lead, I guess, in the band. So,
Yeah, I'm the lead guitar player. Well, it's shared leads, but
we share everything, I guess.
Gotcha. Okay. And then who are the members that aren't here?
Well, Peter, he was supposed to come, but he had other things to do. So he is the other lead guitar player, and also the other lead singer. We sing harmony leads, so we're singing harmony almost all the time. So when I say I'm the lead singer, it's really I'm just a half of one big whole.
Gotcha. Very ants-esque.
Yes. And then we don't have a drummer at the moment. So we released our record, and then a couple days later, the drummer quit. So if there's any drummers out there, give us a call.
Gotcha. Well, I imagine a couple are watching. So everybody tag somebody below. Let's see if we can make that happen. And then just what got you each into music initially, just as your individual stories?
You go first, John.
well, I was my dad started me playing guitar and taught me how to play guitar at 9 years old. I was absolutely obsessed the first time I ever heard the Beatles. And my dad, being from bands in the 60s, he indulged that and was all for it. And so that was a lot of how me and my dad bonded. So, and I've carried that on as the gift that keeps giving.
Hell yeah. I'm trying to, do you have any kids? And if so, have you got them into Beatles?
No, I don't have any kids. We have 3 cats and a dog.
Oh.
And I've tried to play the Beatles, but they don't seem to care.
Yeah.
They're Rolling Stone fans, right?
Oh, gotcha. That makes sense.
Or the Who.
The Who?
No.
I'm just kidding. All right. And then what about you?
I've brothers, and I think my older brother and cousins were super into Kiss and Judas Priest, but Kiss was something that was very, as a kid, it was pretty awesome.
Yeah. They were like the WWE of the music world.
Yeah. And so there was and my mom was super into music, so always playing records. And so I was just into music, and I always tell this story of the time when I knew that I wanted to play music was we used to live way out in the woods, and we would lose power all the time. And my mom would have us sleep in the living room, sleeping bags, and she would put a record on, just drop the needle on the record, so that when the power came on, we would
smart.
Power was on. And I just remember sleeping, and all of a sudden the Queen song "Save Me" came on right before the big guitar solo, and just woke up out of a dead sleep in a dark room to that giant guitar solo, and just being blown away and being I think I need to play rock and roll.
That is one of the most rock and roll stories. Hell yeah. I love that. All All right. And then before we get into more of like what y'all do in the present day, I do have a couple foundation questions I like to check in with everybody on. The first one is one we ask early. It's one we ask often, and it's definitely a crowd favorite. What was the first album you each bought with your own money?
I think there's two, and I don't know which one came first.
That's all right. You can say both of them.
I think I remember buying Dolly Parton 9 to 5 soundtrack.
Okay.
And Purple Rain soundtrack.
God.
So
all right.
Purple Rain soundtrack has a lot more influence on my today life, than Dolly Parton 95, but still.
I mean, still two very good albums to have. Yeah, like good taste as a young person.
Yeah.
And then what about you?
Oddly enough, I think my first that I bought with my own money, first album was a cassette single of Nirvana.
Mm-hmm.
And it was in the mall, and it was one of those record stores that used to be in the mall, and
like Tower Records and such.
Yeah, I don't even remember the name of it. I think they're gone now.
Yeah.
But it was one of those like $1.50 cassette things.
Bins, and you could just grab whatever.
Yeah, and it was a Nirvana, and that was the only one I could afford.
Fair. Hell yeah, well, it's still definitely a solid choice.
Yeah.
And then what was one of the first live shows you each went to that was like specifically one you wanted to go to? It's like you saw what was happening, got tickets, went to it.
That's a tricky one.
Yeah, my mom used to take us up to the Puyallup Fair, and we used to go see, everybody, Eddie Rabbit, Mac Davis, Air Supply, all these people. I think probably the first show that I ever went to was just in grade school with my friend, and we went to go see Stryper play.
Whoa.
But I don't know if I bought the tickets or if I know I wanted to go because I was super into, metal.
Yeah.
So
hey, we'll let that count. That's a cool one.
Yeah.
And then what about you?
I went to a lot of shows with my dad that I didn't buy tickets for. I think the first one I actually went to without being with my parents, and this is going to be really, a shameful admission, but it was Third Eye Blind Spring Break in Panama City.
Okay.
And it was with my girlfriend at the time, and she was really into Third Eye Blind, and she's like, I got us tickets, we're going to this. And I said, okay.
Hey, this is a safe space.
Bad.
You can say you like Third Eye Blind. We'll allow it.
I don't hate them.
No, I'm sure at the time that was probably a really good show. You know what I mean? Like
it was a vibe because it was literally spring break, Panama City, MTV was there, and it was in one of those clubs that they always videotaped in. And it was a vibe. There was people swimming in a pool. It was a vibe. It was definitely, wouldn't be my first choice.
No, of course not. Of course not.
But it was definitely an experience.
That's what, like, I remember, I'm not a big country guy, admittedly. I've nothing against it. It just doesn't. But one time I was dating somebody and they were like, hey, I got tickets to this country thing. And I was like, I wasn't doing anything anyway. So, it's either that or sit on the couch. So I go to it. They are just partying.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea that country music was just a tailgate inside a venue. It was wild. So yeah, sometimes it's just worth going to see what it's like.
I am definitely an advocate for experience all.
Yes, very much so.
Because you go to these places and you have these ideas of what you think something's going to be, and then you get there and it blows your mind to see things.
Yeah.
I do not listen to any bluegrass, but I will go to a bluegrass show any day. It's amazing. It's fun.
Well, also live music is cool. You know what I mean? Like there's something to be said about just music happening in front of you. That's really enjoyable.
Especially when they're good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good musicians, maybe not good
way.
songwriters, but good musicians or just, in general.
Yeah. All right. And then before we officially get into the now, do you each have a defining moment where you decided you wanted to take music more seriously?
I used to practice my signature because I was like, either I'm going to be a doctor or like a rock star.
Well, I mean,
and
you should
I was
be practicing your signature if you're going to be a doctor.
Well,
I don't think
a sloppy looking autograph.
Yeah, something you could do quickly.
And I was like, God, being a doctor takes so much school, and I already had long hair, and I was just like, maybe I should just be a rock star. And
That makes sense.
Not that I made it that far, but whatever.
Yeah,
I've got the signature for it.
That is arguably one of the more important parts.
It felt like it, or it felt like a good decision-making sort of moment. So
also, it's just fun to have a cool signature. I'm going to be honest. When I was playing shows full time, I had one that was articulate. Like, it didn't need to be, but like I practiced it to be like quick and articulate. So it looked like everybody else's signature was very much just like, and mine was this like multi-dimensional thing, but I could write it really fast.
The heart above the eye.
No, it was
Kidding.
It was like an upside down triangle almost, but then it had like this accented bit at the end. But it was just so easy to write that it looked like I had sat there and just gone.
And then you're just waiting.
Yeah.
For somebody to say, sign this.
Yep.
Right.
And
nobody ever does.
Almost nobody ever did. Yeah. All right. But what about you?
Well, so music has always been a part of my life. And I don't, gosh, I wish there was like this. I've had a lot of defining moments within music, but nothing that really anchored in that music was something I was going to take more seriously. For me, it's always been this thing where my life has always lacked in some ways if it's not there.
That makes sense.
Some form, you know.
Well, it sounds like you two both had kind of supportive roles for getting into music. It doesn't sound like either of your households were very against it. So, I mean, I imagine if you've got that consistent support and you stuck with it, you've just kind of been into it since the beginning. So, I can dig that.
I think for my mom, it was probably like, well, if he's playing music, he's leaving me alone.
And not getting into trouble.
Not getting into trouble.
Yeah.
Yes.
Until those like post-high school years. But we won't talk about those.
Yeah.
But now let's go ahead and let's get on into more of the present day. We are going to get a super easy one out of the way. How'd y'all pick the band name?
This band, I always say it's like, sorry, I'm thinking too fast. That it's sort of like shoebox ideas. So you just keep throwing song or ideas into a shoebox, and basically it was just a file on a top one, and the file was just entitled Tiny Jackets, and it was probably because in another band I was in, I used to wear this little leather jacket where eventually I couldn't wear it anymore, and it was so tiny. So I think I just named the folder Tiny Jacket after that jacket, which I still have, by the way. And I think that when we finally decided, hey, this band's kind of coming together, we should start playing shows or something like that, it was like, what should we name this band? It was like, well, the working folder for all these ideas has always been Tiny Jackets, so maybe that. And I don't think maybe we threw a couple ideas around, but that sort of stuck really early. So
yeah. Well, it's definitely a cool name. It's easy to spell. It's easy to remember. It looks good. You've got a lot of good letters in there for like any type of font, really. I do this bit where I break it. It's one of my favorite parts of all of it. So
cool.
Definitely a super solid one. And then how did the band meet? How did everybody kind of come into play? No pun intended.
I don't know. I feel like I'm answering all these questions, John.
Well, I was kind of the accident.
I've heard that before. No, I'm kidding.
Anyways, so I was doing some home projects, and needed. I build things, and I needed screen printing done. And I was looking for. It was in the in between of pandemic, I guess, in between the first wave and when things started ramping up again. And I reached out to I shouldn't mention their name maybe, but I reached out to the company that he was working for, and I needed some screen printing ink, and then some screens made, and met him. He saw, we started chatting about what I was doing, and it was music related, what I was building, a guitar at the time. And so we started chatting about that. And then we exchanged information, and he was really helpful in that process. And along the way, he mentioned he wanted to form, put together a project with guys playing in a safe, COVID safe kind of condition, well spaced, and in a warehouse where we couldn't possibly contaminate each other.
Oh, that's actually really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I knew Paul, the original drummer. I mean, I think Tiny Jackets is the fourth band we've been in together. And then I knew Peter, or I know Peter. And he and I have known each other for years. And at the beginning of the pandemic, when everybody was just like figuring out their little small bubbles, I talked to him and I just said, I want to do something that's sort of Everly Brothers style. So we got together with acoustic guitars and just worked on singing harmony together all the time. And there was this really great Bee Gees documentary that was out around the same time. I think, I don't remember what it's called. How Do You Mend a Broken Heart or something like that. Anyway, it's a great documentary if you haven't seen it. And so the conversation of sibling harmonies came up, the Bee Gees, Everly Brothers, Oasis.
Hanson.
And so we just worked on singing together and dialing it in so that we sounded like siblings, but even though we're not. And then like what John was just saying is at my work, we had this huge warehouse that I just sort of cleared everything away. And we were able to set up like 20 feet away from one another to kind of start hashing out some ideas. But it also meant that the guitar amps were super loud. So it's just vocal harmonies with really loud guitars.
I dig that.
Yeah.
And I imagine because it was a warehouse space, I imagine there wasn't a lot of like acoustic treatment.
Oh, no. It's like
these were hitting.
Yeah.
They were probably hitting.
It was just like 40-foot ceilings, huge room. So it was echoey and, no need to add reverb to any vocals.
No.
But it was fun. I mean, and I think it just sort of made it loud and and it's not loud in like a heavy way, but loud and just like
voluminous.
Yeah. I mean, we're big like Teenage Fan Club fans and, Oasis, and I'm a huge Oasis fan. I don't know about these guys, but just like the guitars are loud and it's just, it's very anthemic. So I always tell people Tiny Jackets is sad anthems.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Now I want to talk about your guys' writing process. And we're going to break it up into chunks, but we're going to start right at the beginning. So when it comes time to make a new track, how do y'all go about getting one started?
I think that I kind of come to the band with some sort of idea already figured out. Most of the time, I'm not a very good guitar player, so it's me on an acoustic guitar playing the same 5 chords that I know.
Very AC/DC of you.
Trying to figure out like the basic melody, but then usually I work out me and Peter's harmonies. So typically I'll try to demo it and it will be, here's the basic guitar structure, here's the vocal harmonies, and then it's usually me pounding drums onto a table or something, and then giving it to these guys and being like, well, you guys are real guitar players, so make it sound
like real guitar.
Make it sound like Not an Idiot's playing guitar and
make it more musical.
And then, a lot of, Paul, the drummer, was great at arranging or like interesting arranging ideas. And Peter plays piano really well. So he's really good at like, hey, let's throw in A major 7 or a such and such in that just makes the transitions better. And then just John and Peter working off of guitars to sort of, have more movement and more exciting stuff.
Oh yeah. And yeah, I guess like once he brings it kind of into the room, how do you take it and run with it?
Well, so a lot of what I do is, while we're oftentimes for me, when we're establishing the sound of what it's going to sound like and the movements of it. And, even the dynamics, then you really kind of get an idea of where are the spots where it's appropriate. I feel like the dynamic direction of the song, where its ups and downs are, really kind of lays the boundaries for where a solo should be, and where the little icings are, and the little sparkles and the things like that. So really, there are some songs where we'll play where, as I listen to it, it won't be obvious on the forefront what should be there. As it comes together and the dynamic scapes of it become more apparent, then there's that light bulb moment of, this needs this here, this needs this there.
Yeah.
Or sometimes they'll have ideas of, I think I hear this here.
Yeah.
And we work a lot of it like that.
Okay. And do you all work like where like somebody can record something and like give it to everybody at a point, or is it always just like writing in the room together? I mean, once you bring it to the group primarily.
I mean, I think that we will work on it in the room, and do, iPhone recordings of it. And so it just sort of evolves. None of us are studio people.
Gotcha. So you're not like at home doing your professional rig and then sending it to your buddy, and then they're sending it to their buddy.
No, I mean,
it's very in the rough.
Very in the rough.
I'm a big proprietor of that approach. I think that writing in the room together, there's a very different energy that goes into it, because you can really hear those subtle nuances when going through things versus like playing to that one recording of that one time they played it while they were still figuring it out.
Yeah.
Like, I think a lot of malleability comes from writing in the room.
For me, like as a lead guitar player, I'm admittedly not one of those improvisational guys that can just out of my hat pull out this amazing solo. So a lot of times I'll feel things that belong in there, but I need to sit around and noodle with it. And getting everybody together in a room and having everybody wait around for me to noodle oftentimes doesn't happen. So I'll do it at home and then find that.
That's fair. Yeah.
Yeah. And and I think Peter does a little bit of that as well. He'll kind of have like a placeholder solo until you come up with the one that's the solo.
Yeah.
'Cause when it's the solo, it sounds different. It feels different.
Very much so. And then how do y'all deal with like creative differences? Like, what does that look like for the band?
I think that usually by the time like I've given the song to these guys, I have some specific ideas of what I want. I think that I don't know. I think that I like to have everybody give their ideas and put it all into the pot. I think if Peter was here, he'd say, I always give you my ideas and you never use them. But I don't know. I mean, I think that it just depends. Like there's certain parts of it that I have very specific ideas of what I want it to sound like or do. But then there's whole other parts where, if I think of Dark Age, which is one of our tunes, where the original version that I was like, here's what I want this to sound like. Now it sounds like the first half maybe sounds like what I brought to the table, but then the second half was just, talking about things. So I don't know, creative differences. I'd say that, everybody has a pretty equal, place to throw ideas into the hat. I guess maybe I always have the sort of last say, but I don't know what you would say.
I feel like oftentimes, and not all the time, but there'll be moments in a song where he's like, this is what I think of when in this part of the song, and he'll have an example of this song, and he's like, don't rip it off. Just this is a dynamic idea I have for this, or here's this specific aspect of this. I like that, and then it's almost always kind of a starting point, and then the life it takes on its own once you start playing it, it comes together, is a hint of that, but not the same.
Yeah. Okay, I got it.
Was this your way of just asking if we ever argue about stuff?
No, I always, because in the realm of writing, a lot of bands kind of operate in the way y'all do, where it's very much there's somebody who's like primarily coming up with the concepts and then bringing it to the room, which is, very standard, makes a lot of sense kind of formulaically. But in those dynamics, there are the times where like some people are just like, hey, I'm just here to play. I'm going to play what you tell me to play. And other times there are people who like you brought into the band because, they are talented. They have their own versions of the ideas and that they're going to expand on it. So for me, it's just I'm just always interested to know how other bands approach when there are those kinds of moments, because usually it's either very discussionary or like it's very like ultimatum-y, like, hey, we did this, we're going to do that. It's just interesting to me.
I don't feel like it's a strong thing like that at all.
No, not everybody has. There have been a handful of bands even that are like, we've been playing for like 15 years. We just know what each other's going to play.
I mean, I think there's times where we throw a lot of ideas at it, and it becomes pretty obvious from the first couple times through whether something sounds good or doesn't sound good.
Well, it sounds like y'all have a pretty healthy like form of like musical communication, so I imagine there aren't a lot of difficulties in that process at this point.
Oh, sometimes we have some confusion over terminologies. Music language and the nuances of music are tough ones to communicate.
Very much so.
It's always, where's the one?
Where's the one? Yeah.
My new book, actually.
Somebody's got to write it. I think that, for the most part with us, there's not a lot of strong egos in our band, and everybody really wants to do what we're doing.
Yeah.
And, having complete faith in the creative process of it and knowing that what it unfolds into and what it becomes is going to be exactly what it's intended to be. Sometimes you think that it's going to sound like this, but when you do it and you start playing it, it doesn't.
Something very different.
And being able to trust that also sometimes.
Yeah. That's half the fun of it, honestly. Like when you have an idea and you bring it to the room and you get to like see it kind of evolve and like morph into something different, the end result is almost like more enticing because it wasn't what was there from the start.
To surprise yourself.
Yeah. And then before you guys play live shows, do you have any like pre-show band rituals or anything like that you do?
Should we tell them about the magic?
I don't know. No. That's between the four of us.
We're not going to talk about the sacrifices.
Okay.
I don't have any rituals. I know that Peter always goes after sound check and has sushi, which I think is a dangerous thing. I suppose if we toured more, it would be dangerous. But
as long as it's not like mall sushi, it's probably fine.
Sushi train sushi.
It's like, I got to go get sushi. And he disappears and he comes back.
A guy in the back alley. You got the sushi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, hey, that's something. And do you do anything?
Usually I'm hanging out with friends there. I have a
fan club.
Okay.
I have a bunch of
audience,
really good friends that come to every show that I play that they can when they're in town, and they're great. And I'm always hanging out with them. And usually we're laughing. Sometimes we're playing Wordle, but yeah, we're just hanging out and having a good time. And for me, I like to watch the sound checks of other bands, and of course, the usual requisite nerding over each other's gear is part of that too.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you don't, did you even go to a show?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Oh yeah. Well, now I want to take a moment and I want to talk about some of your music. So, and I'm gonna let you know now, this goes a little long, I apologize. But I was checking it out, and you've got music going all the way back to 2023 on Spotify. And your sound is very indie, very folky, but it sounds very big. That was something that stood out to me, is that it is a very large sound, which loud guitars make sense now. And as I was listening to it, there was a lot of emotional intent in it. I feel like the music really reaches for something and it lands, which I thought was really cool. And we're going to talk about your newest release, Monophonic Tones, in just a moment. But I want to know everything about the 2024 single, My Own Dark Age.
Everything?
I mean, yeah, how did it come to be? What are some interesting, like, it's just such an interesting song.
I mean, I think, I sort of mentioned it earlier, where the first half of the tune was kind of how the whole song was.
Mhm.
It was just sort of upbeat. That was one. I can't remember. Peter was just like, oh, I feel like, we could go into this Wax Wings thing. And so he sent us all that song. And so I started listening to it and played the riff a little bit different, slowed down, and then started singing the melody line over the top of that. And so then it turned into, the first half of the song being the upbeat version. And then it turned into this big, drawn out sort of epic ending with the big verse at the verse chorus at the end. I don't know. That just sort of came about, I think, pretty easily. And
wasn't there I seem to remember that there was a story about you being, is this a song with the hotel where you were stuck in a hotel room in quarantine and you couldn't leave or something like that? Or am I thinking of another song?
I don't know. Maybe. I don't know the story.
I thought it was a trip down to California, but
Could have been. I don't know. I don't know. I don't remember that story.
Oh.
I don't know. I mean, I tend to write lyrics all the time, like a line or something. And
are you like on a napkin at the bar kind of guy, or do you just pull out your phone and type it in real quick?
There's most of the time I have a book with me that I
like an
write down.
Okay, cool.
But there's a lot. Walking the dog seems like the best time for me to come up with lines. So a lot of times I'm texting them to myself so that when I get back to the house, I'll write them in the book.
You should get a pair of meta glasses, and you can just like record yourself on the walks and just sing them.
That sounds hard.
It also sounds like the possible next generation of They Live.
Oh God.
I don't know. I think that like pen and paper for some is definitely like, I feel like pen and paper sort of sparks other creative ideas.
The tangibility of it is good too. It helps you remember it better.
So like there are times when I'll just free write on my laptop if it's open in front of me, but most of the time like in my book. I don't know why I keep saying I'm right-handed. But I'll just sit there and maybe two lines will, and then I'm like, I'm just going to write every stupid thing that comes out after it, which usually sort of clears your mind for the better ideas to come to surface. And so when I'm start trying to put together words and everything, it'll be like, okay, I need 8 lines. Like, what are the best 8 lines in here or something? But it's a process. But as far as Dark Age goes, I think, yeah, I don't know. That one was like just trying to think of the words, how that sort of came about. But it's just sort of like a sort of shedding, your old self or getting out of your own way sort of idea.
Gotcha. Well, thank you for sharing some of that. Like I said, it was one that really jumped out at me. So before we got into the new stuff, I did want to dig into it a little bit. But talking about the newer EP, Monophonic Tones.
Yes.
I keep wanting to say monotone, and I'm like, no, that's not it. But it's really cool. It's a super solid album. You guys were clearly not playing around with this one. All of your entire catalog is good, but there was something that really stood out about this one. It really felt put together. And for only being essentially 4 tracks, because, once the radio edit, that each track is so good standalone, but they all work really well together. there's a lot of like layers and dynamics to it that kind of, you have this bit of a through line, but each one is a really prominent force. So super big fan. I really enjoy it.
Cool. Monophonic Tones actually was recorded way before Dark Age, by the way. So it's Monophonic Tones was paired with a big art project. And I wish I would have brought vinyl because you would have seen the whole thing.
Oh, gotcha.
And it took a really long time to do. So that was recorded almost a year and a half before we went in and did Dark Age.
Was it 2022? I think we went in.
Well, we recorded it twice. So
I know how that goes.
yeah, and Monophonic Tones is a group of tunes from when we first started. So I used to be in a band in Seattle called Thistle, and when we first started out, it was like we just needed songs to play, and so we took some of those songs and just sort of reworked them and made them our own. And and it was sort of like as I started writing more material to fill in the set list, and before we gave up a lot of those songs, I wanted to record them to sort of I don't know, because I love those songs.
Yeah.
I wanted to like put them together and put them out before we moved on. So that's what that EP is about.
Damn.
Yeah.
Well, are you still going to play them live then, or are you like, okay? I was going to say, hopefully they're not going to at least take out of that.
I mean, I think that there's at least one that I can think of in there that is not always easy to play live. So it disappears from the set every once in a while, but there's two of them that are probably staples for the long haul.
Gotcha.
And then Hogwash is just fun to play because it's just a loud rockin' tune. So
It's a barn burner.
Yeah. So that segues well into the next question. I am curious to know, out of all the music you guys have available, what are some of your favorite ones to play individually? Or just like as yourselves, what are some of the more favorite ones to play?
Of our songs?
Yeah.
I mean, I like a lot, the newer stuff is always fun, which is not recorded or released. I mean, we started recording some stuff, which we still have to finish, but we have a song called So Tired, which I'd love to sing. So that one is one of my favorites. I don't know.
I definitely have some favorites off the new album that's not out yet. Of what's out right now, I'd say the one that is the funnest for me to play. It's kind of for me, it's a tie between What's the Big Idea and Bring It Home. Because Bring It Home, when we do it live, it's always this big, ending.
Yeah.
We kind of always say it's like the Bruce Springsteen ending of how we do that, but it's a really fun song. It's never not been fun to play.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there's certain songs in the catalog that have emotional connections for me. So, I mean, Stay With Me is one that I always really love to play. It's not the happiest material or song, but I don't know. It's just there's certain songs that I connect to emotionally pretty strongly. So those ones always feel like a cathartic moment.
Yeah,
happening in front of strangers.
That makes sense.
Or John's friends.
I have to say that Stay With Me is one of those songs that I feel emotionally, that one's definitely got a significance of emotional connection that, to me, every time I play it, I connect it with that too. So it's definitely, it's a great song. I love that song.
Oh yeah. Thank you guys both for sharing that. Now I want to take a moment. I want to zoom out. What are y'all listening to right now? What are you taking in at the moment?
How can I answer this without looking at my phone?
I mean, you can if you want. That's no problem.
I don't know.
Well, I've been binging the Knapsack and Jealous Sound albums. Absolutely, just no clue how I slept on those bands, but the algorithms have found me on the streaming services, and they're like, if you like this, you'll like these guys.
And you were just like, you got me.
Yeah, and they were 100% right. I hate that about it. But I've been listening to those a lot, and they're just, everything Knapsack, all their albums are just great. It's the catchiest stuff. It's just so great. Jealous Sound, equally so great.
Oh yeah, I dig that.
Yeah.
What'd you find?
Well, I've really, this is going to sound crazy. I have really gotten into Taylor Swift lately because her lyrical writing is so good.
Mm-hmm.
Bon Iver just put out a new record, which is really good.
Mm-hmm.
Father John Misty just put out a new record.
Oh, that's good.
Which is very good. Lyrically is very good. What else have I been listening to? Like, I feel like I have a friend in LA, and they'll send me songs, and I will like listen to them over and over again. And he's been exposing me to music that I wouldn't normally listen to.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I have my standards that I love to go back to all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I don't know, that Father John Misty record, and then Taylor Swift. I don't know.
Hey, those are both cool answers.
Taylor Swift is solid. I don't care what anybody says.
I mean, like you said,
she's great.
I heard the music isn't always my favorite stuff, but her lyrics are so good.
I'd say it's really hard to argue with her talent and her ethic of what she does.
Well, we actually have her here to argue that. No.
John, I can't believe you.
All right, and then before we move on to the next portion, this question is for each of you individually again, and is probably the densest question in the interview. But we talked about, the experience of music, the actions, the reactions. But when it's just you and music one-on-one, what does music give back to you?
I think for me, probably the best way to put it is just filling a void, whatever that void is. I don't know how to describe it. It's like that thing that I can't put my finger on, but I know when it's not there.
Yeah.
I don't know if that sounds almost spiritual, and it's not intended to be. I'm not a spiritual individual, but there's something there with it. And when I hear songs, it triggers things. You remember smells, you remember things that happened, and there's a power to music, I think. And this is going to sound cliche, and I hate that, but I don't think there's anything else performative that I can think of that gets to me the way music does.
Yeah, I mean, I would say like a good song or a good lyric that you can relate to almost makes you feel heard in a way. Like, that's exactly how I feel. Or I never could put that into words before, but this song is putting it into words and music. So I just feel like, you'd listen to a great song or a great record and you're just like, man, Taylor Swift really gets me, or something like that, where you're just like, this is, you don't feel so alone or something. I don't know.
When it hits a switch,
Yeah.
like, I think probably one of the easiest to describe things, the powers of music for me is, and I'm not a huge, I'm not a huge punk guy. I would never claim to be punk. I'm certainly not one of those guys that dust off his leather studded jacket to go to a punk show, but.
Well, I mean, if you were, you wouldn't have to dust it off. You'd always have it. It would always be good to go.
Yes. But when you listen to Waiting Room,
mm-hmm.
if that song doesn't make you want to stand up and just like, holy crap, if you don't feel electric with that, you're not feeling it.
Yeah.
And it's songs like that. There's songs that just, it flips a switch, whatever it is, just makes you feel deep or whatever.
Oh yeah. Well, thank you both for answering that. Now we're going to move on to some hypothetical questions. And for these, sky's the limits. The questions are all made up, so the answers are allowed to be as well. But this first one is pretty straightforward. If the band could share a bill with any other active group, that's the only requirement is they have to be out there doing something right now. Who would you each want it to be?
Can we name more than one?
Sure.
I mean, Oasis's reunion. You're reuniting, so that would be awesome. I'm not done. To play with Teenage Fan Club would be really fun.
Yes.
I think that there was one more that was in my head. I don't know. I'm a huge U2 fan, and these guys make fun of me about how much I talked about U2. But
I don't make fun of you for that.
Yeah, you and Peter always do, because I always bring them up.
I know you're a big fan. I don't make fun of you for that.
I think Adam Clayton is like such a great bass player. I would love to just hang out with him. So
I think Teenage Fan Club would be awesome. It would have to be. It would be hard to really be honest about this and say I would probably want to play the best small tangible rooms and not stadiums, because I feel like there's so much that could be lost there. Then again, I would probably never, if we were ever faced with it, turn down a stadium tour. But when you think about just connecting with people, it's like I go to Mississippi Studios, and that's like my favorite place to see shows.
Yeah,
because it's always awesome, and there's no bad place in that room. And local bands I would love to play with. I would love to play with the Eyelids. They're awesome. I don't know if you've ever listened to them. They're phenomenal. One of my favorite local bands. But yeah, I think local bands would definitely be Eyelids. We're talking national bands here in the United States. I think playing with Foo Fighters would be pretty hard too.
Yeah, hell yeah.
I think that just something about learning their performance energy is, I don't think there's any band that is even close. Performance energy, but
oh yeah. Well, coincidentally, you answered the next part of the question, which is, who is a local act you each are aware of that you haven't gotten to play a show with yet, but you would like to? And I think we're going to default the Eyelids to your answer.
yes.
yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know. There's just there's a lot of really great local bands that I guess I'll just say the Eyelids. I mean, I'm friends with the guys in Federale. We haven't been able to play with them. I'd love to play with them, hang out with them.
The Dandy Warhols would be pretty fun.
Are they around here?
Yeah.
Interesting. I did not know that.
Yeah,
That's one thing I love about this show. I'm slowly finding out about way more like cool and famous like artists that are actually in the area.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's so many good bands out here.
Very much so. And then for this next one, this is a silly question. It's the only silly question I've got, but it's a silly one. If the band music could be the soundtrack to any movie that like already exists, which movie would you all pick?
I think definitely Silence of the Lambs.
I'm thinking Beethoven 3 specifically.
Yeah. I don't know. That's a hard question.
Free
I'm
Willy.
not much of a movie person, so I don't know. Boogie Nights.
Boogie Nights.
It's a very different movie.
I think that music could completely change a movie. I love seeing movies where the soundtrack does not match what's happening in the movie, and it's,
Very Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, and you're like, oh my gosh. So yeah, I think it would be great to have our music over like a slasher film or something like that.
Okay.
But that's just kind of my silly side, I think.
Yeah, that's okay. That counts.
I like slasher movies too.
I wish I could remember what I think it's called Creepers, but in the US it's called Creepers, but then it's called something different.
Is it Creepies?
No.
Or something like that?
And they use Flash of the Blade from Iron Maiden for almost every chase scene.
Mm-hmm.
And it is like the perfect use of just that song.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I mean, if we could have that sort of impact on a slasher movie, that would be great.
Yeah. Gosh, I want to. it just made me think when you were talking about uses of songs. And I remember first time I ever watched, it was Mallrats of all movies. And they played that Weezer song, Suzanne, in that movie. And that is like such a good Weezer song. And for the longest time, I couldn't find that song on any album. And I just went down a rabbit hole trying to find that. And that was back when torrenting and all that. Yeah, that was a great one. And applicable to the movie? Not necessarily, but
yeah,
a great song for a good movie.
I mean, View Askew always had a really good soundtrack to any movie they did. That was kind of a thing.
Yes.
All right, but thank you guys for entertaining that question. To wrap up the hypothetical questions, if you could each add one abstract instrument into the band, so not the normal stuff, so no keyboards, no saxophones, really reach outside the box here, what would you each add?
I don't know. I've always, with this band, been sort of very like, it's a guitar band. That's it.
Yeah.
Because I play keyboards. Peter's a really good piano player and keyboard player, and we have a synth band together that's inactive. But and it's sort of like we've talked about, like putting like should we get a keyboard player? Should we record? So when we record, should we put keyboards in it? It's like, nope, it's just guitars.
Gotcha.
So it's a hard question to answer because I would just say no, it's a guitar band. But I don't know. I always loved the kazoo.
Different stringed instrument.
Kazoo.
I don't know. I'm just kidding.
Kazoo.
Just kidding. I mean, we put a cowbell. We put a cowbell and in Dark Age, and also played bottles.
Beer.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
So
Bottles.
yeah, Coke bottles. So I guess that made us not a guitar band.
Yeah.
Well, that's percussion.
Yeah. I mean, we're not turning into Slipknot by playing Coke bottles, but we had a sitar guitar in one of our songs, so that's fairly abstract.
Mm-hmm.
We had a gong. That's not, I wouldn't call that abstract, but it's non-typical.
Less common, yeah. Yeah, you're not going to see that in the local band setting very often.
For our record release, I was trying really, really hard to find a giant Alex Van Halen sized gong just so the very last hit, Paul could hit the gong. It's really hard to rent a large.
Yeah.
So
actually, we have the one instrument, and this isn't really your question, but the one instrument you will probably never hear in a Tiny Jackets song is a 12-string guitar.
Oh, that's okay. I'm not a big fan like the sound is fine. Don't love playing them.
no.
Don't love playing them. That just
Or tuning them.
Yeah, I get that too. But I am a bass player as well, so like strings aren't meant to go that high.
What about a 12-string bass?
Ugh.
Played one?
No, that's too much fretboard. I at a certain point, what are we doing? I don't need a miniature piano. That's what harps are for.
Wasn't it Cheap Trick that did the 12-string bass?
Yeah, that and Jeff Ament from Pearl Jam.
Oh, that's right.
I've seen a handful of like hybrid ones where it's like a few of the strings are doubled up even.
Yeah.
Just kind of,
It's the same thing as a 12-string guitar where like the E has two higher E's.
Yeah.
So I don't know. They're
threes.
I've played them before. It feels really weird. And they're very specific. And I know that if I was like, hey, I'm getting a 12-string bass, then everybody would give me a bunch of crap because I give everybody crap about 12-string guitars. So
I honestly will support Kelly in this in saying that of all of our songs, I don't feel like there's a single song that was ever like, it's missing so much by not having a 12-string.
Yeah.
We did Nashville tuning in one, and that did everything we needed, and it sounds perfect.
that was actually, that's funny. I mean, in Dark Age, I think Peter said, this would sound really good with a 12-string. And I said, absolutely not. And then the idea came up with Nashville tuning, which is basically a guitar that it still has 6 strings, but it's tuned up an octave.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to do twice as many guitar tracks because we would do one with a regular guitar and then
one higher up. So basically a 12 string.
Basically a 12 string, but that was the only compromise I would give.
He likes deconstructed 12 strings, as turns out.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, that's still, that is yet again another interesting fact about that track. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
All right. But with that being said, we are going to go ahead and start wrapping this up. What can we look forward to in the next 6 months? What do you guys got going on?
Well, we started recording some stuff. And I think that in my mind, I started thinking, okay, well, 2 of the songs I think work well together, and I'd like to finish them and maybe do another single, because that seems to be what we like to do, EPs and singles. But we got to find a drummer because we'll probably do some acoustic shows. That's what we're kind of working on, is trying to get something that sounds decent. And then try to book some stuff. And when we find a drummer, play. Like we'd have a show in Seattle booked, but we got to find a drummer to play it. So, I don't know. Record more, write more, some tunes.
Oh yeah, well, definitely looking forward to all of that.
Hopefully get into Tree Fort Festival one day.
One day.
Oh yeah. For this next one, then go and look straight at your camera. Tell everybody how they can find you.
So if you want to listen to us, you can find us on iTunes. You can find us on Spotify. We have an Instagram and Facebook profile there for any bookings. And you can buy our album, our vinyl, on Bandcamp.
Yeah, it's always a good place. Apple Music. I know that's what iTunes is, but it's got a new name these days. So, I mean, it's everywhere where you stream music. You can go to Ronald Records and get a vinyl copy. Music Millennium, Specs, bunch of different record stores have vinyl copies. You should buy them, because I got boxes of them sitting in my living room. So,
and definitely support local.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And then any other plugs, any other shout outs, anybody else you'd like to put on while you're on here?
I'll plug my own personal fan club of Dave, Becky, Rob, and my wife, Sarah. They're the biggest support for me on all these shows. And love you guys. And thanks to Kelly for letting me play music with him.
Wow.
Oh yeah. All right. Now, with that being said, I've got one last question to go. Before we do, I'm going to steal the camera for just a second.
Okay.
As always, y'all, please make sure to like, subscribe, push all the buttons, do all the things. You know, I don't know what they are, but you do, and I trust you. And one more shout out to the Brothers Apothecary, Ronald Records, and Boiling Water. Thanks for keeping us hydrated. And with that being said, the final question. And this is entirely up to your interpretation, each answer individually. But in all of music, what is an album you feel is more on the obscure side? It's a bit of a deep cut. It's one not a lot of people would know, but it's one you think everybody should know.
For me, I don't know that I can name a particular album, but I would say pretty much anything by the band 764 Hero. They're no longer together, but they are one of my favorite Northwest bands. They have a song called Loaded Painted Red, which is absolutely amazing.
Oh yeah, that's a super cool rec. Thank you.
Gosh, I don't know. I mean, I think about, I'm sitting here just trying to make sure I got the name right. When we were recording Monophonic Tones, there was a couple records that were floating around as just like sort of targets for sounds and stuff like that. And I was listening to Ocean Color Scene, Mosley Shoals record, a whole bunch, and I kept sending it to these guys. So they're part of the Britpop-ish scene, I guess, but they never really made it over here. And that record is so good. So I don't know. Maybe they're not super obscure, but I think that record is incredible.
That's all right. That is a great rec. Thank you so much. All right, but with that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you both so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
And this has been another exciting episode of Jimmy's Jambox. I'm Jimmy.
I'm John.
I'm Kelly.
And we're signing off. Later, y'all.
That's a wrap. This is not a podcast.
This is a show.
Keep jamming.